These are the prayers of the people. Let us pray. Beloved God, we thank you for giving us power through your Spirit that we might reveal your love in the world. Strengthen, bless, and guide us to make your love known in both word and example. Guide us in your grace. We thank you for your creation and pray for the earth you have given us to cherish and protect. Nourish in us your love for all you have made. Guide us in your grace. Guide and bless us in our work and in our play, and shape the patterns of our political and economic life, that all people may share in the fulfillment of your creative work. Guide us in your grace. Awaken in our hearts your presence in all people, in those we love easily, in those with whom we struggle, in those different from us, and in those familiar to us. Guide us in your grace. Beloved, we thank you also for the gift of life, with all its blessings and sorrows. Shield the joyous, comfort and strengthen those in any need or trouble. Bless those who will be born today and those who will die, that joining with the company of all your saints, we may rejoice in the unending song of praise. Guide us in your grace. We offer these our prayers and thanksgivings to you, O God, the source of all that is true and holy. We offer them in your name, now and forever. Greetings. Welcome to Trinity Place. My name is Cameron Miller, and this is a reflection for the fourth Sunday of Pentecost season in the using the readings for the lectionary, plus the poem Joy by Stuart Katzenbaum. But I want to warn you that this one is a bit strange, abstract, highly metaphoric. You will either get it or you won't. It has a punchline, kind of so what, as somebody likes to say, but it's a punchline, not a prescription, so do not expect a how-to instruction sheet at the end. You'll have to figure it out for yourself. From the poem, every butterfly knows that the end is different from the beginning, and that it's always a part of a longer story. You see, this is a sermon in 3 parts, striated by the Stuart Katzenbaum poem, Joy. And then if you forget about it, forget about the title for a minute, the poem seems to be about how to live. And then you remember the title, Joy, and say, oh yeah, joy. But also it's about how to live. It seems like to me. We are perhaps someplace between butterflies and geese when it comes to graceful flight or graceful living. Since in our case, we are mud creatures who have only learned to fly inside of machines. Otherwise, we're rooted to the earth, unable to even live underwater without a thick hull surrounding us and pumping in air. So I take it as a poetic metaphor, these joyful, grace-filled winged subjects who just know how to live and the way that they were designed to live. But we, without wings, have not yet figured out who or what we were designed to do. And so we try to do everything. But now, that gospel reading from Luke, where Jesus gives his team a pep talk before the game. John Dominic Crossan, the theologian and cultural anthropologist, postulates that the reason Jesus turned into a movement after he was crucified, and John the Baptist became a mere memory once he was beheaded, is hidden in this very story. You see, John the Baptist was more popular than Jesus when they were both alive, and well into the decades after as well. But the followers of Jesus turned him into a movement that spread across the world, while John's disciples did not. Crossan thinks it's because Jesus, a charismatic figure himself, focused on equipping his followers to do what he did, while John became the object of veneration by his followers. One group was told to go out and do, while the other group went about proclaiming the personality of their dead leader. Every butterfly knows that the end is different from the beginning, and that it is always a part of a longer story in which we are always transformed. When it's time to fly, you know how, just the way you knew how to breathe. One of the mistakes I think that Christian preachers and teachers make is parroting the words that Jesus was supposed to have said from stories like the one we heard today. So take, for example, that whole bit about eat what is set before you, shake the dust from your feet, carry no purse, etc. You know, that's just not the pep talk that Jesus would need to give to you and me today. I don't pretend to know what that pep talk would be, but I'm pretty sure it would be vastly different from the first century agrarian peasant speech we read about. Even so, modern Christians still seem to hang on to the peculiar first century peasant context and hang on every ancient word, which is about like our trying to use butterfly wings to soar. Instead, I think we need to focus on what Jesus did. He sent his students and followers out 2 by 2. In other words, no heroes, no solo practices, no superstars, just partners. Partners to do work they could do where they could do it. To do work that they could where they could do it. They're not going to be Jesus. They're going to go out and be themselves among others and practice what they learned to do. They went out to be themselves among others to practice what they had learned to do. In other words, over time, they were transformed. And when it came time to fly, they knew how, just the way they knew how to breathe. I'm sure that some of them flew like a butterfly and stung like a bee, Muhammad Ali. And some soared high, whoever they were, calling like wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing their place in the family of things, Mary Oliver. There were 82 of them, the 70 Jesus names, and then the 12 disciples, 41 partners. And without a doubt, there must have been a mixture of grace and awkwardness, successes and miserable failures, starts and stops, and everything in between. There is no reason for us to imagine that there was anything but the human condition at work in those pairs. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Going out and being themselves among others and doing what they were able to do. So let's not romanticize this story. Let's not pretend there wasn't a lot of trial and error, joy and sorrow, cooperation and conflict, rejection and embrace. And then this is part 3, where the story now turns towards us. Back to the poem a moment. Maybe. The way the geese know when to depart, the way their wings know how to speak to the wind, a partnership of feather and glide, lifting into the blue dream. What is a church? It certainly isn't a building. It's not an institution with a constitution and canons. A church is not a bungalow built by doctrine and laws for an ordained few to live in. A church is not an organ and choir performing for their own enjoyment and whoever else happens to be there. What is a church? It is a spiritual community sent with partners to be themselves and to do what they can do in places and among people that they find themselves. Let me repeat that. The church is a spiritual community sent with partners to be themselves and do what they can do in the places and among the people that they find themselves. If you're hearing this sermon online and you are by yourself and you do not have a spiritual community, then get a partner. 2 by 2 is just fine. Just remember, you cannot do it alone. Get a partner, however you can, and go be yourself and do what you can do among the people you find yourself among. It's not rocket science. It need not be complicated. It doesn't even have to cost money. It doesn't have to be a big program. It doesn't have to be recognized. It needs to be with a partner or partners, doing what you can do where you are, with people who you and your partners are among. That is church. A church does not require worship. Please hear that, because it's my not so humble opinion that our little Episcopal church, as we call it, has screwed that up so very much. Worship is not the core of the community. It may be what the community does to nurture itself so it can go do what it can do. Worship may be the thing it really likes to do together, but it's not the core practice. It's the grease, the glue, the lotion that helps us stay supple, but it's not the thing itself. And as for the thing we go do, we should not assume that it's feeding people, or building houses for people, or lobbying school boards, legislatures, or Congress with our impassioned voices. It could be those things, but it might also be quieter, more subtle, unnoticed things. It might be reading to somebody, or visiting or eating with someone who usually is alone. It can be anything, so long as it allows us to be ourselves among others, and we do not do it alone. What is a church? It's just 2 or 3 gathered together, perhaps with a bunch of other partners networked and woven into a community, figuring out what it means to be themselves among others wherever they are and with whomever they have been given to be with. Every butterfly knows that the end is different from the beginning, and that it is always a part of a longer story, which is always transformed. Well, we are certainly part of a longer story, and we have been transformed many times, whether we're talking about the historic church or our own little community. And it is safe to say that we are being transformed now, probably already shaped and changed more than we know. We should be like the butterfly and know that this thing that we do, this thing that we're part of, that we call church, has a different ending than the beginning. And that we are part of a longer story, which is always about transformation. We read the ancient stories and sayings, and we know about the historic chapters that we've been told about along the way. And we know about the people that came just before us and what they did and how they did it. What we don't know, what we haven't heard yet, is about our transformation and how our story ends. But we do know when it comes time to fly, we will know how. Peace be with you.